Hey everyone, John Miller here with the tech team in Antioch. I want to talk to you today in this video about the new firmware or software on the X32 consoles. So this is version 4 of their firmware. And they made two major updates. One is the interface. It looks nicer, looks cleaner. So that's the first thing you're going to notice. And then the other one is routing. So you can now route more flexibly. You can route individual channels to inputs to channels to outputs. You don't just have to do that in blocks of 8. So most of you are not necessarily going to get into that unless you're taking one of our systems, doing something portable like a camp or something of that sort. Most of the ones that are installed in venues are already set up and you don't have to change the routing a lot. I will show it to you briefly toward the end of the video. But let's start where most of you will, and that's with the channels and the channel strip. So I'm going to select the lead Vox channel, and when we look at the home screen for that channel, you'll notice that the color scheme has changed a lot. The font has changed. Things are a little sharper and clearer. It looks really nice. The information, by and large, is the same. So all of these things were on the home screen before. They're all still here. So you'll notice, for the most part, everything is where you expect it to be. Now, if we go one tab over to the config page, it has changed just a little bit. So this meter is now horizontal. The input, the source for the channel, is now here in the first column above this first encoder. Not in the third position where it used to be. And they give us a little more information about kind of this overview of the EQ and the low cut. So as we change that low cut, we can actually see it changing there on the graph. So that's kind of a handy little insight that they give us here on the config page. It's also on the EQ later. And then the other thing they give us is this signal flow path. And it changes as you turn things on and off, punch them in and out, or like in this case, if we changed our insert, so this channel has a de-esser on it in the effects rack, and if I changed it from pre to post or from post to pre, you'll see that change. So all those different kinds of changes get highlighted and shown here, so it's a little clearer about what you're doing as you're making changes. The rest of these tabs are all the same as they were before. The gate, the dynamics, the compressor, the EQ, the sins. Now the sins, similar to the config page, the signal flow is a little clearer about what's on and off and where those different taps occur. So if you're sending things to, say, your band, and if they're pre-fader, well, then they're getting pulled off here, post-fader, and all those different places to take sins. Another thing that has changed is what used to be called the scribble strip. So if we hold down the select button for the channel and then we push the utility button, we now get what they call name and icon, what used to be called scribble strip. So that's a nice quick way to get to the name for the channel. And then if we edit that name, we get a very different looking keyboard. But in my opinion, a much nicer keyboard, and the way you interact with it is also different. So you now have a knob for horizontal and vertical movement. So we can go across the keyboard and we can go up and down the keyboard. Every now and then it feels a little bit backwards, but that's kind of just my opinion. I will say it is a lot faster than the old one, I think. So I think you'll find that nice, you'll find it handy. They also try to give you some more suggestions about names. Those may or may not be helpful to you. Another thing we can do with this utility button, so if I'm going to I'll go back to home here and then scroll over to the EQ page, and then I'll press utility. This was the same as it was before, but the way this looks is a little different now, and you'll notice that there's this extra box here on the right. So if I hit copy, what's going to happen is it's going to now show me a little preview of what I have copied. So you see it says channel 2, which is the lead Vox, and it's highlighting just this one little icon, which happens to be the EQ. Now those icons are maybe not entirely clear, but at least they tried to give you some idea of what it is that you've copied and you're going to paste. So now I'm going to go to another channel. So I'm going to select channel 3. And if I go to paste on channel 3, the dialog that pops up even says, are you sure you want to paste from channel 2 to channel 3? So they've given us a little more information about what we're doing to make sure we're doing what we're expecting. So that, I think, is really handy. Just to kind of complete this, if I were to go to the home page for this channel, go to utility, now you see all of those icons there at the bottom of that little preview window. And you can see the ones that are highlighted are on and the ones that are dim are turned off, and kind of get an idea of what you're copying and pasting. The next thing then is in the routing page. So if we push the routing button and go look at the routing page, you'll notice that the way this is grouped is different than it used to be. There are now two main tabs, block routing and patch point or individual routing. Well, underneath the block routing, there's the main input, like it used to be, the AES, the card, and then finally the physical XLR outputs on the console. One nice thing that they added to this tab is this little overview. Again, it's just a listing of what's currently patched so that it's quick for you to see what's there and you don't have to scroll through all of the different items to see how things are routed. And then under the patch group, we've got the outputs, the auxes, the P16s, and a new user bank for routing, which most of our systems, again, that are installed in venues, we're probably not going to be using that. We try to avoid, we try to make all those different layers as straightforward as possible, so we avoid adding extra complication in the routing, but it is there if we wanted to use it. A minor thing is the control for the lamp. In case you don't remember where that's at, it's with the monitor and the talkback, so you can hit either one of these view buttons. And then they actually broke it out as a separate tab. So if we go all the way over here to lamp, we got one knob to control the lamp settings, but at least it's a little easier to find in that separate tab than it used to be. Last thing then, and this is new with I think version 4.04 if I remember correctly, and that is DPA Spill. So each of these groups that we set up are DCAs, right? DCA 1 through 8 here. And if you tap the select button, it now puts the channels that are associated with that DCA or assigned to that DCA, it spills them over here on the left-hand side. So you can see wireless 1 and 2 are part of this DCA. If I hit the vocals, then I get the vocals over there. If I press instruments, I get all the instruments over there, similar for drums. So that is actually kind of handy. So I'm going to turn off that spill for just a second. So this is what the normal layer on the left looks like. The drums are on the second page. So another way that I could quickly get to the drums would be to hit the drums DCA, and now I can adjust those different channels. If you're used to the old console, you would press this select button, you would hold it down, and you can assign and unassign the channels that are going to that DCA. You can still do that, you just have to wait a second longer. So if I hold down the vocals DCA, you can see all of these light up. If I hold down the instruments DCA, you can see all of those are assigned to the instruments. So you just got to hold that button down a little bit longer, whereas if you tap it, it does the DCA spill. So that's the difference, hold versus tap. But again, I think it's handy, especially to be able to get to drums and some other things quickly. So I hope that helps. Thanks for watching.